mute right out the gate. We on mute right out the gate. It wasn't my fault, man. That was a systemic issue. That wasn't me. That weren't me.
System issue?
Yeah, that was definitely a systemic issue. I'm your host, Juice. Welcome to another edition of the Second Half Draft Show. Joined by Drew and Headley. This evening's show, we're featuring the top 10 receivers and edge rushers according to Drew and Headley, respectively. So you're going to get a two-pack of rankings, all right? And gentlemen, I think considering the nature of the position, as far as fans in general, there's always a lot of intrigue in terms of the receiver position. It's kind of interesting to stack this group up against last year. I'm not sure we're quite as high on this year's group compared to the 2022 class, but some good receivers, different types of receivers as well. So let's jump right into it. Before we get into the actual players within Headley and Drew's top 10 respectively, here's a quick look at our NFL draft prospect grading scale. Again, 1 to 10, obviously a 1 is not what you want to see on the field. Any player getting a grade of 1 isn't an NFLer. They're one of us, to be perfectly frank. So with that being said, we move on to number 10. And Headley, you have Michael Wilson from Stanford, and Drew, you have Jalen Hyatt from Tennessee. And I want to start with you, Drew. Some people may feel that you're a bit too low on Jalen Hyatt, considering the season that he just, he put up huge numbers, monstrous numbers this past season. Why? He certainly makes your top 10, but why so low within the top 10?
Am I on mute? Can you hear me?
No, you're good.
Okay. Loud and clear.
Just making sure. He's 6 foot 176. He's a highlight reel, man. And people love to fall in love with speed and big plays and all of that. But what does that look like when I put a corner in front of him and he has to be pressed? What does that look like? Because I know he can catch the football. I know he can break away. I know he's nice in space. But if I close in that space, can he make me a contested catch? Can he, if he's challenged, what does that look like? Because we know in college football, that's not a thing, right? People scared of the speed. You know what I'm saying? People couldn't figure out what the hell Tennessee was doing, i.e. Alabama, i.e. somewhat of South Carolina, right? I.e. Florida. Like, they couldn't figure it out. So is he a one-trick pony? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, man. So I wouldn't quite put him there because I believe he has the ability. It's just that the guys in front of him, the 9 in front of him, have shown me more, right? But Jalen Hyatt's done everything that he's been asked to do in terms of the role that he plays within that Tennessee offense. But I'm a little nervous, right? Because I liken him a little bit to Josh Downs in terms of the speed, in terms of the playmaking big ability. But Josh Downs showed me some things this season that made me absolutely have him higher than what Jalen Hyatt is right now.
I'll say this before you get in there, Headley, regarding Michael Wilson, your 10th ranked receiver. There really was very limited production going into this season from Jalen Hyatt, right? Cedric Tillman was the lead dog. Of course, with the injury, with the advent of the offense that they were deploying, and then Hooker playing at a very high level, and then Hyatt's speed, his game-breaking speed, he blew up, right? Huge season, 1,500 yards, double-digit touchdowns. I mean, couldn't be stopped, right? In that Vols offense. You're concerned about the things that you haven't seen. One thing that I think collectively, and it helps, or at least you can lean on that to separate guys that are close, right? I haven't seen it. Doesn't mean that they can't do it. It doesn't mean that, right? So it's something that you have to. It's kind of a fine line that you're walking here. We don't want to necessarily punish a player for not demonstrating something if he wasn't asked to do it, he wasn't put in position to do it. And then your point regarding the lack of press at the collegiate level, I'd say there's a lack of it at the professional level as well. Regardless, teams are scared. Opposition, they're scared of speed. They're terrified of it. And with all the rules favoring the receivers, it used to be a much higher evaluation point for me, a much more significant evaluation point for me. But these days, you can do the stack releases, right? You can do the bunches. You can use motion. You understand what I'm saying? If you're thinking about him as being just a traditional X, I can understand your concern there. But I mean, you can move him around, man. You can make certain things happen. So that's just kind of my counterpoint to what you have not seen thus far. All right. Headley, what about Michael Wilson?
Yeah, Michael Wilson's a guy that showed out at the Senior Bowl, and I got to admit, I watched a little bit of Michael Wilson before the Senior Bowl, and I wasn't nothing really stood out. He wasn't that impressive to me. I saw him against Christian Gonzalez. Christian Gonzalez was a hip pocket. That is the best corner in the nation, so I get it. You're not going to really separate from a Christian Gonzalez, but when I saw him at the Senior Bowl, 6'2", the twitchiness, he made plays down the field, was physical. Just the route running ability, it was just impressive for a guy his size. So, he's wide receiver 10 for me because of what he did in the Senior Bowl. And again, that game against Christian Gonzalez, the pass game timing with Stanford was off. I think all season long, they were trying to do that slow mesh. They couldn't really get in sync, Tanner McKee and Michael Wilson. So, I don't put it all on Michael Wilson. The only thing I put on him is he has to stay on the field. Availability, he got to be dependable, got to be out there. He's more games than he played in his collegiate career. So if he can just stay healthy and use that quick twitch ability at his size, I could see him as an inside receiver, outside receiver. I can see him all over the football field.
Yeah, we really, really encourage you to check out our video on the channel. That's Couch Potato General Manager featuring Michael Wilson. We've said it before on this particular program and previous editions of this program that start to finish, he had the best week at the Senior Bowl. And there were some quality receivers there, right? You had Rashee Rice, Jonathan Mingo, Tank Dell, Jaden Reed. There's some really good players that were at the Senior Bowl. And again, start to finish, Michael Wilson had the best week among all the wide receivers. So to your point, he's been out of sight, out of mind because of an extensive injury history. He hasn't yet to play a full season. As you mentioned, Headley, he's missed more games than he's played. Right, in terms of what games he was actually, part of the Stanford team, and ultimately what he was actually to get on the field for. So yeah, that is certainly working against him, but a talented player nonetheless. All right, let's move on to your 9th-ranked receiver. And I mentioned Jaden Reed, Headley, Michigan State. He too was at Mobile, and he was very impressive. He wasn't quite as ballyhooed as perhaps Tank Dell and Michael Wilson based on those one-on-one performances, but I thought Reed had a really good week.
Yeah, another guy that dominated at the Senior Bowl all week long. It just looked easy for Jaden Reed. Easy speed, his ability to win deep with his route running ability. And what really stood out to me, especially in season, was his ability at his size to win those 50-50 balls, make those contested catches, because they're going to knock him on his size at the next level because he's not a bigger guy. But if you can win above the rim, it doesn't matter, man. It's a guy that came out last year that, I think we all loved was Jahan Dotson. Dotson, not a 6-foot+ guy, but he could win above the rim, and he uses his speed really well. So I see Jaden Reed in that kind of caliber. But we're going to see, man, with Jaden Reed. That
caliber or that type of player?
That type of player.
Okay.
Definitely have Dotson higher, but I can see it. I see glimpses of it, and it comes really easy to Jaden Reed.
Yeah, Jake, that's a great point. Quarterback play definitely hurt Jaden Reed. As you can see here, his 2021 stat line is substantially better, right? I mean, it's night and day compared to what happened in 2022. But again, I think with a strong week during the Senior Bowl and of course that 2021 tape, he's a player that I feel most folks are too low on, right? I don't know. Actually, I do know. He doesn't quite make Drew's list here. Instead, you go with Parker Washington. Drew, what do you like about Parker Washington out of Penn State?
Goes up and gets the football, much like Headley was talking about in terms of playing above the rim. No fear of the middle of the field. Very good in the scramble drill. I have here, when I see that, when I say very good in the scramble drill, I got KC here for Kansas City. For those Kansas City fans out there, it might be a good fit for you guys. Sits in the holes of the defense in the zone. He's a calculated, patient route runner. Can turn bad balls into good balls. Strong hands. Works well in small spaces. Can throttle up and down. And he offers that punt return ability, man. And he's from I'm not going to say a long line of Penn State receivers, but we talk about Allen Robinson. We talk about a Chris Godwin. We talk about a Deshaun Hamilton. We talk about a KJ Hamler. We talk about a Jahan Dotson.
Hamilton.
I got to throw them all in there, bro. I'm just throwing them all in there. I'm just grab everybody in the last couple of years and throw them all in there. I think we have most years in there. So he's just kind of
you gotta go back further, man. You gotta get you a OJ McDuff. You gotta get you a Bobby Ingram.
Yeah, I see him. I got a Joe Jaravicious. We can go deep. You know what? A Gary Heyman.
Right.
You know what I mean? We can do it. But yeah, he's just a part of that line of those receivers. Penn State's kind of been pumping him out here lately, so I think he's another guy. I know most people aren't talking about him. When I first watched him, I really liked him, and he's kind of just stuck around in terms of my top 10 receivers.
All right. We move on to the 8th ranked receiver in Headley and Drew's respective top 10. And Headley, you have Jalen Hyatt. Drew, you have his teammate Cedric Tillman, right? So, Drew, you had Hyatt ranked as your 10th receiver. Headley, you have a little bit higher here as that number should be 8. I don't know what happened there. Somebody, namely me, screwed up the editing there, but that's an 8.
Yeah.
That really should be an 8 right there. I start with you, Drew. Cedric Tillman, your thoughts on him? Obviously, he missed a chunk of the seasons. His numbers weren't necessarily as good as his 2021 numbers, as you can see below. And Hyatt stole the show. What do you like about Tillman? Why are you higher on Tillman than Hyatt?
Because I think he has the ability to be the complete receiver. When you talk about, I know the last pod we had, someone was asking about having an X receiver. I think what team was that for? Was that Texans?
Texans, it was.
Yeah, we went ahead and got Cedric Tillman in there in terms of playing the X. Has the ability to be a big play threat on the perimeter, ability to track the ball down the field, make contested catches, productive for back-to-back seasons. Although, like you spoke about, he was hurt last year. He still was productive, still a big part of that offense. And he has strong hands, and he can win at the top of the route, man, creating that separation that you want. So I think, I know a lot of people, like you said, Jalen Hyatt, that is, when you think about the Tennessee offense outside of Hendon Hooker, you're thinking about Jalen Hyatt because he's the highlight reel. But I'm thinking about the more complete player in Cedric Tillman.
Fair enough. Hyatt, from your perspective, what do you like about him, and why is Drew too low on him?
Just what he could do in the offense, in the right system, in the right scheme. You talked about the Chiefs earlier. Imagine if this guy plays with Andy Reid and Andy Reid's ability to move guys around. Jalen Hyatt, he just wins vertical. He can stretch the field. We would talk about those guys that can stretch the field, a la Deshaun Jackson, where he just makes it easier for everybody else. You might need 2 on him, so it's going to open up one-on-ones for your tight end, for your X receiver, because I think Hyatt, that Z receiver, move him around, get him vertical, and he's exceptional at tracking the football down the field. It's like you can't really overthrow Hyatt. Just launch it out there. He'll track the football, and it's probably going to be 6. His coming out party was against Alabama. He really showed out after Cedric Tillman went down. So he stole the show, and he's my wide receiver 8, not 6.
Yes. Again, once again, programming conflict there. This is receiver 8 for Drew and Headley, respectively. We move on to receiver 7. Got this one right. Quentin Johnston. Now, folks are going to see this, and they're going to think you guys are entirely too low on Quentin Johnston. Big play receiver out of TCU. Headley, explain it to me. Explain it to me why Johnston isn't quite higher. Why isn't he higher in your top 10?
A couple reasons. The route tree, he's really even goes and hitches, out there at TCU. Also, he drops some passes, a lot of passes that he should catch. Just the concentration. You got to secure the football at the next level. And we see another thing, Big 12. I'm not going to lie, man. These Big 12 receivers, it's a track record of them not performing at the next level. So, with his limited route tree, dropping the passes, playing in that Big 12 offense, that all hurts his projection. But talk about yards after the catch with him. Beast. Just get the ball in his hands. It was I forgot the game when he was his coming out show this season where they used him everywhere, vertically, in the slot, across the middle, everywhere, horizontally. And he tracks the football really well. He could go up and get it. He wins those 50-50 balls. So oozing with talent, just probably got a little raw right now. That's why he's a wide receiver 7.
D-Kid, 8 through 10, we got in no specific order here. In no specific order, we got Michael Wilson out of Stanford, Jaden Reed from Michigan State. I think both Headley and Drew had Jalen Hyatt coming in between 8 and 10. Who am I missing, fellas? Am I missing anybody? Cedric Tillman was part of that group as well.
And Parker Washington from
And
Penn
Parker
State.
Washington out of Penn State. So that should catch you up there, D-Kid. We move on. Well, rather, Drew, I'm going to give you an opportunity to speak on Quentin Johnston. Your thoughts on the TCU receiver and why is he lower in your rankings? And when I say that, I'm comparing it to the consensus. I think the consensus has Quentin Johnston higher.
Yeah, I mean, Headley talked about in terms of his inconsistency, in terms of catching the football, in terms of being involved in the offense. He is a guy who will disappear from time to time, and I'm not talking about from half to half. I'm talking about from game to game, right? So he's a guy I think you just have to continue to pepper and get balls to him. Otherwise, he may disappear, right? Headley talked about in terms of his route limitation. Now, I will say this, in terms of his route tree was limited, but with the routes he did run, I thought he was very adept at running those routes. Working the blind spots, and essentially playing off the anticipation of defenders. He has good big frame and size, and I think that's that's size and frame and speed is going to save him. Even though he's inconsistent, that's something that teams are going to look at and say, yeah, we can fix that. You know what I'm saying? Or teams are going to, one of the big things, not to compare them to, but when we talk about size and we're talking about speed, we could be talking about DK, you know what I'm saying, in terms of his limitations, in terms of what he can do. And we kind of see what he is now. And he's a solid receiver. You know what I mean? He wasn't inconsistent. So that's still a concern in terms of Johnston, but he's a big play guy and he can make things happen. You talk about the game earlier this year with Johnston. We can go back to Oklahoma the year before. I mean, that was a highlight reel in itself, the whole game, just him lighting them guys up. Didn't matter who the DB was, who the safety was, man. So just, I don't know, man. Inconsistency for me is big at any position, to be honest. So he takes a little bit of a hit for me there.
I understand. Speaking about the route tree, and we all saw the same thing on tape, right? As far as it being limited, what they asked him to do was limited. Got a couple film grinders that obviously we respect their work, Jake as well as DP Damian Parson for the Draft Network. The thought process, at least from DP's perspective, is that part of the reason why that route tree is limited is because of the quarterback play, right? Max Duggan had some limitations, so they focused on what he did well, which ultimately limited what Quentin Johnston did. So just something to kind of consider, to juxtapose against your analysis based on what you're seeing on film, because yes, he did not run the full route tree. Was that because he simply could not run other routes, or was that a byproduct of some of the issues they had at the quarterback position? So just food for thought.
And to jump on a little bit on that, like I spoke about earlier, the routes he ran, they were nice. You know what I mean?
Right.
They were good. You know what I'm saying? I think he's a smart football player. So, that can only catapult him in terms of other routes that he didn't get a chance to run, enough of. So I think he'll be fine in terms of that. But it's always something to, nitpicking out here in terms of the route limitation.
All right. We are at the true receiver 6 here. Of course, we talked about what appeared to be receiver 6. That was actually receiver 8. You have Rashee Rice, Headley, as your 6th ranked receiver. Drew, you have Josh Downs. You alluded to Josh Downs earlier. Headley, I want to start with you. Rashee Rice, your thoughts on a very physical wideout out of the SMU.
Yeah, you stole the words right out my mouth, man. Just physical in every aspect of the game, whether it be run blocking, whether it be after the catch ability to break tackles, at the catch point, those 50-50 balls. And he has plus athleticism. He can play inside, outside. He kind of grouped with Quentin Johnston a bit, where the route running I think is a little bit of a question mark, but just the athletic gifts and the yards after the catch and the big play. If he gets into offense more, spread it out and wide receiver screens, getting the ball quickly, I think he could be very explosive at the next level.
Okay. And Drew, Josh Downs, your thoughts on receiver out of UNC?
Yeah, this man a baller, man. He's to me, he's arguably
too low, man.
Too low on him.
Arguably, he's the best slot receiver in the country. I don't know, JSN. People gonna argue me that's fine. Too low just because of his size, man. I'm a ding him. I got him. I'm a ding him, man. I gotta ding him for that. But he's a blur. You want to talk about Jalen Hyatt? This is a more refined, better receiver in terms of a speedy, smaller receiver. Like I said earlier, my concern with Hyatt is that press. Well, that was my concern with Josh Downs coming into the season. I needed him to check that box for me, and he was out there checking that box consistently. He's got moves and ways to get by DBs that want to press. He has this little hitch in his game in terms of his route running. I don't think it's not normal in terms of his way to throttle up, throttle down, and separate from DBs, linebackers, safeties, whomever it is. But he is able to create separation, and he was the linchpin of that UNC offense.
And what's interesting is that, as you can see here, he put up huge numbers in 2022, and those receptions and yardage totals are actually down. He was over 100 receptions in 2021 and 1,300 yards in 2021. So, your boy, Sam Howell, was hitting him up. Drake May spread it out a little bit more, but
he was hurt. He missed some games too.
That's true.
He was hurt.
He did miss a little run here. I do want to respond to D-Kid's comment here regarding Rashee Rice. I thought so as the week progressed. I had very, very high expectations for Rashee Rice, and I think he had a good week. He didn't have a great week. I think early in the week, perhaps, through the first practice and a half, he seemed a little unsure of himself. He wasn't playing with the typical physicality that we see on film. But by the time we got to, the one-on-ones on day 2 and throughout the remainder of the week in Mobile, I thought he started to look like himself. He started to kind of assert himself. So I don't think he hurt himself, but I thought Rashee Rice was actually going to push himself up the board even more. Right. And I'm not sure that he did quite that, but I really like the player. And as Headley mentioned, get him in the right system. I think he's going to do damage at the next level. All right, we move on to your 5th ranked receiver here. And Headley, you have Zay Flowers, and Drew has Michael Wilson. And I want to start with Drew because, Headley, you had Michael Wilson at 10. One of the major concerns there, obviously, being the fact that he hasn't played a lot of football. He has a very long injury history. Drew doesn't seem to be quite as concerned, right? And having that opportunity to see him up close and personal in Mobile, interview him again. Check out that video on the channel, Couch Potato General Manager. Why has Michael Wilson overtook so many receivers for you, Drew?
Bruh, that brother's smooth, man. Let me see if I can find one in my notes. I got it right here. Can create separation in many ways, whether that be conniving in terms of his route running,
yeah.
whether that's smooth or whether that's twitchy. And at the end of the day, your job is to do a couple of things as a receiver: block, catch, and separate. And he can do all of those things. Now, obviously, like you spoke about in terms of injury, I spoke to him and he said, man, that the only thing that they're looking for is for me to stay healthy because his game is legit. It's real. It's the real deal. He's the entire package in terms of the receiver position. There's nothing that he can't do from the position outside of stay healthy. That's all we need you to do, brother. That's it. Is stay healthy and you can be dominant in the league, man. Go up and get the football, breaking people off like Kit Kat bars, contested catches. He's the entire package, man. But I'm gonna ding him because you got to stay healthy, brother. Got to stay healthy.
I don't think that's a ding, man. I don't think the ranking that you have for him is a ding.
He could be higher though. You know what I mean?
Perhaps. If we got a chance to see more of him, perhaps.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, that to me, that's a bullish ranking on Michael Wilson, considering the fact that he has an extensive injury risk. There isn't a ton of production, but when you think about projecting him, what he does well as a route technician, the fact that he'll mix it up, he'll come down and block a linebacker, block a safety, and his football IQ is off the charts. Right, it truly is. Again, having an opportunity to speak to him, get a sense of how he prepares and who he's preparing with. You know what I mean? He patterns his game after the Keenan Allens of the world, and then TJ Houshmandzadeh is training him. So he works hard at his craft, and hopefully he stays injury free. Headley, you have Zay Flowers, explosive Zay Flowers, as your 5th ranked receiver. Why?
You said it, explosiveness. He's the most explosive wide receiver in the draft. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being the best wide receiver in this draft because what he possesses, man, all season long, man. I'm an ACC guy, man, and he's just big play Zay. I was yelling all season, big play Zay. He's balling, and he didn't get the love really until after the season, at the Shrine game, those one-on-ones. And then further on, man, that's when he started getting love. I think he's probably the biggest riser out of any receiver in this class. I think Drew has a surprise later for him, but yeah, just the explosiveness horizontally, vertically, just his ability to separate. His separation skills is top notch in this class. And yeah, big play Zay is my wide receiver 5.
Yeah, D-Kid. No, Michael Wilson looked big. He possesses the size. That's he's all of 6'2", 213. He is. He's got really good size. There aren't a ton of big receivers in this class. He's one of the bigger ones. Definitely is one of the bigger ones. Let's move on to receiver 4 here. And Headley, I'm gonna start with you. It's your guy, Josh Downs. And Drew actually has Rashee Rice as his 4th ranked receiver. So if we go back to receiver 6, you have these flipped. Headley, you have Rice. Drew, you have Downs. In this case, at receiver 4. Headley, you prefer Downs. Drew, Rice. Headley, your thoughts on Josh Downs?
Yeah, I think Downs, even though he's 4th for me, he's probably my favorite receiver in the class. Just watching his tape last year, he was the one guy coming into 2022 where I was like, he's a sure thing. You know what I'm saying? I watched, we talked about Jordan Addison a little later, but, I wasn't that convinced in Jordan Addison last season, even though the big stats. But with Josh Downs, I was convinced as soon as I laid eyes on him. Just the route pace. Drew's talking about his route running ability, and it's his pace. He go inside, outside. He could fake inside, come back outside, fake short, go deep. He kind of lulls guys to sleep. It's just very twitchy. And for a small guy, he can make plays, contested catches. He goes up and get the ball. He's just a dog, man. And if you watch North Carolina this year, it was Drake May. It was every down, every third down. We knew the ball was going to Josh Downs. It didn't matter. He's a one-on-one nightmare. At the next level, you got to be able to separate, win those one-on-one matchups. And yeah, I think Downs could be a 100-catch guy at the next level. Always open.
Always open.
Facts.
7-11, 24/7.
Yep.
Drew, you got Rashee Rice. This was receiver 1 entering the 2022 season for you, man. This was the guy, all right?
All right.
And he doesn't quite make receiver 1 after another full year of evaluation, but he does land in your top 4. What do you like about Rashee Rice?
Big, physical, strong, playmaker with the ball in his hands. Can play both inside, outside, create separation with physicality. Super productive. Obviously we talked about in terms of the limited route tree. He's got some concentration drops he's got to work on. Again, like you had spoke about earlier in terms of him kind of catapulting himself in the Senior Bowl, we were all kind of expecting that's what we wanted from him. We didn't quite see that. I think he was trying to play. I don't know if he was trying to play a different game, trying to show some different set of skills. But I think he just needs to stick to what he is, which is a physical receiver that can create separation with his physicality, man. And so, you don't have too many bigger receivers that can catch the ball and make things happen with it. But, and listen, he got some Steve Smith in his game, bro. He will block somebody into the rafters, and he's about that life, bro. If that's a guy you really want to mess with out there, he got some Steve Smith in him. I don't know. I don't know if you want to mess with that guy, bro.
You don't want those problems.
Nah.
I see D-Kid is eyeing a larger receiver to add to that Giants receiving corps, and I like the likes of Cedric Tillman. He asked about Michael Wilson and his stature. He fits the bill. He fits the bill. He can be an X for you. And then of course Cedric Tillman. I think Cedric Tillman would be perfect fit at the X in New York. So there's a few options. The guy I like a little bit later. Unfortunately, he did not make Drew or Headley's top 10. I think he's rising. Is definitely my guy, Jonathan Mingo.
Yeah,
I like him.
I was mad I didn't get him in my 10. I was mad.
It's hard, man. Some guys aren't going to quite get in there. So, but yeah. What I do love about Rashee Rice is the mentality. When he is locked in, he takes the fight. He takes the fight to the opposition, to those defensive backs. So really like both these players here, Josh Downs and Rashee Rice. We move on to receiver 3. And Headley, when we talk about guys that you kind of planted your flag on, Drew's guy had been Rashee Rice. You've been in the Cedric Tillman camp all year, long before, Jalen Hyatt burst on the scene. You've held steadfast, even as Hyatt, his star rose. You have him as your receiver 3. And Drew, you have Jordan Addison as your 3rd-ranked receiver. I want to start with you. What do you like so much about Tillman?
Yeah, it was the 2021 tape. When I watched him, like I said earlier, Downs stood out to me, and Tillman, he was my wide receiver 3 from last year. And I know he got hurt this year, but I couldn't move him off that spot because he didn't do anything to hurt his stock other than getting hurt. His ability to win deep, stack receivers, his ability to at the top of his routes, cut back, come back on the hitch, come back on the comeback. He just sells that deep ball so well. He's physical after the catch, and also those 50-50 balls is 80-20 for Tillman. The timing, the body control. I fall in love with these receivers like, Mike Williams, T. Higgins, and that kind
Those
of
are your
mold, man.
guys. Those are your guys.
Man. And Cedric Tillman is one of those guys as well. Prototypical X receiver. I think he'd come in right away and start. I think people are too low on him, and I think he's going to have a successful NFL career.
All right. Drew, tell me about Jordan Addison, the 2021 Biletnikoff Award winner. Obviously, 2022 wasn't as big from a statistical standpoint, but he's your third-ranked receiver.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. And listen, it's nice to see a guy go from one team to the next team and is able to still produce and be that same receiver, right? Or maybe he added a little bit more juice in terms of USC, in terms of the way they used him there. But like you spoke about him coming from Pittsburgh, from an NFL quarterback and Kenny Pickett to probably the number one pick come this year, and Caleb Williams, and him still being able to produce and be what he is, which is he's great in short area quickness, can create the separation that you want from the position, and he can make things happen with the ball in his hands, man. Plays a little punt return, a little special teamer as well. So I think he's a big play waiting to happen. I love me some Jordan Addison. I didn't really, even though he was the Biletnikoff Award winner coming out of Pittsburgh, he was probably around 8, 9-ish for me. But as he played for USC, kind of rose in the ranks, showed me a little bit more ability. And, so I had to, push him up the ranks.
Yeah, and of course, he missed a few games.
And he did. Yep.
Yeah, and I think the injury may have slowed him down a bit more towards the end of the season coming back from it. It appeared like it may have ended his season, the severity of it when you watched it live, but he was able to return. I don't know that he ever was the same player in season. So a healthy Jordan Addison is a problem, definitely. There's no question about it. He was on pace to basically shatter the numbers that he was putting up, that he put up during his Biletnikoff Award-winning season in Pittsburgh. All right. We move on to receiver 2, and we have a consensus. It is none other than Jackson Smith and Jigba. As you can see here, I didn't even put up his 2022 stats because, I think it was, 5 catches over the course of 3 games. Obviously, an injury-marred season. His 2021 season was phenomenal. And on the strength of that, you both have him ranked as the second-ranked receiver in the class, top 2. Drew, why are you so bullish on JSN, even though you didn't really get a chance to see him in 2022?
Strong hands, big playability with the ball in his hands. You could watch the championship game with Utah, and it was a highlight reel. The man couldn't be stopped. Didn't matter who the corner was, linebacker, safety. One of the things I wanted to see this year, obviously, Brandon Joseph, you did this. It's your fault. Is to see him play more outside. But if he's going to play in the slot, he's going to be a dominant player in the slot with his ability to create separation from him and whoever it is that's covering him, man. He's a big play waiting to happen, man.
Garrett Wilson was being generous. Garrett Wilson is the best of the bunch, as far as I'm concerned. But I respect JSN's game, absolutely.
Right.
Headley, what about you?
Yeah, JSN, I think, the anticipation coming into this year, there was no Garrett Wilson, no Olave. So everyone's anticipating JSN. It's your show. I know you had Marvin Harrison Jr. there as well, who's probably better than all those guys. But, but he didn't play. He got hurt in the first game against Notre Dame. Brandon Joseph knocked him out. And 2022 was a lost season. But when you go back and watch that 2021 tape, just the savviness in his route running, there's a physicality to the top of his route. He'll go across the middle, catch contested passes. And it's just everything looks the same. When you have a receiver, you don't have to be 4.2, 4.3. We talked about the combine numbers and how fast you are. But, when everything looks the same, it's just so hard for DBs to know, is he running it in? Is he going out? Is he going to double move? Like, you never know with JSN. And I was so surprised with, not surprised, but went back to 21 tape and the yards after the catch ability, So the speed concerns that people had for him, I didn't really have those concerns because on the football field, he has that football speed. So wide receiver 2 for me.
All right. On the strength of the 2021 tape, JSN comes in at number 2, and of course, and this comes as no surprise because there really is no consensus number 1 in this class when you think about it at large. We had the cornerback conversation, we had the running back conversation, Bijan, Christian Gonzalez. In this case, you guys are split at number 1 for receiver. Headley, you have Jordan Addison, and Drew, you have Zay Flowers. So smaller receivers, but a big play waiting to happen here. Headley, I'm going to start with you. Drew talked about Jordan Addison. He has him as his 3rd-ranked receiver. You have him as a top receiver overall. Why is that?
I think he's a nuanced route runner. I think he's versatile. I think he wins short, intermediate, deep, and also I think he's one of the few receivers in this class. I think he played all 3 wide receiver positions, whether the X, the Z, the Y. He could do it all, man. When you watched him at Pittsburgh, it was a lot of vertical stuff with him, and that's why I said I had a hesitation in his game. Like, okay, you're one-on-one with linebackers, safeties. You're winning vertical. You're winning with your speed. You put big numbers. You won a Biletnikoff board, but at USC, I saw a different Jordan Addison. I saw the release game was on point, the route running. He's not that big, so some teams, Blue Kelly for Stanford got a little physical with him. But when Blue Kelly missed because of his release, it was night, man. It was 6 points. So, that's why I have Jordan Addison, just the route running. He could stack you deep. He could win on all 3 levels and play all 3 wide receiver positions.
There's something about Zay Flowers, Drew. There's something about him. You indicated that in our last or one of our previous second half draft shows. Rashee Rice was the guy, man, and then he wasn't. Then there was a Zay Flowers. Why is Zay Flowers top receiver for you?
Headley said it earlier. Big play Zay, man. Big play Zay, man. He gonna get downfield. He's gonna track the ball well, create separation between him and the defender. And if I told you was getting Calvin Ridley in terms of a route runner, I think he's pristine, precise. I think he can stop on a dime, give you 9 cents change if you like, man. A couple of pennies and nickels in there for you, right? I don't think there's anything he can't do at the position. I wish he was a little bit bigger, right? Because I did ding Josh Downs, right, for the height, right? But I think Zay Flowers is the complete package. I think Josh Downs is a bona fide superstar slot, but I think Zay Flowers can play anywhere, any position in terms of the receiver position that you want him to play, man. So
there it is. Zay Flowers, number 1 for Drew. Big play Zay. We did get a question here, and I do want to unpack it. Actually, there's 2 questions I want to ask. So before I get to D-Kit's inquiry, I do want to talk a little bit about the guys who didn't make the list, right? For our viewers, they may feel more strongly about the likes of a Marvin Mims and A.T. Perry, a Tank Dell, Jonathan Mingo, again, is climbing up boards. There's Charlie Jones. There's quite a few receivers that I think can certainly come in and contribute relatively early in their careers. Who among that group do you feel is just kind of just outside of your top 10?
I have 2 guys. We put them in our grading system, and whatever score spits out, what the score spits out. But Jonathan Mingo was a 6.9 for me. I love his physicality, contested catches. He could win deep. I think he can win in a plethora of ways. And the other guy was Marvin Mims from Oklahoma. Just the speed, the versatility to win deep. And for his size, man, he's real feisty. So I think Mingo and Marvin Mims are the 2 guys that's in my top 10. Yeah.
Yep. DK, that's another one there, Tyler Scott, and I'm sure people are going to be higher on. What about you, Drew?
Muted? No, I'm not muted. I just want to make sure I'm muted. Marvin Mims, I'm going to echo that. He's definitely, I was kind of battling him, like, can I slip him in here? I just couldn't get him in there. And then another guy for me was Kayshon Boutte, man. When you watch the good tape of Kayshon Boutte, he's a top 10 receiver, no questions asked, man. You know what I'm saying? Top 5 probably, but I can't do it. I mean, this season was abysmal. I mean, you only had to check a couple of boxes, brother, which was just play. Let's just see what you did last year. Let's see a repeat. And attitude concerns. I don't like to ding people for the red flag stuff, that kind of stuff, character stuff. But I mean, that was on the field for display, and you can't unsee that, right? So
there was beef. There was beef, but there were some things that were within Boute's control that got away from him as well. There's some off the field concerns there, and it was a bit of a train wreck. It was a bit of a train wreck for Boute in 2022. You were going to weigh in on that, Headley.
No, I was going to echo, what both of you guys are saying, because, Boute, he graded out well for me. I actually took him off my board. It was too much, man. It was too much. Not only in season, even after the season. Right. I don't know if you wasn't prepared for those athletic testing numbers, but he didn't test well at all, man. On the tape, it looks different, but it's just your work ethic is coming into question. You never want to question somebody's work ethic, but it's a question mark, man. It's a question mark with Boute.
Yeah. D-Kid, he was supposed to be the next guy, man. Yep. He was supposed to be the next guy. I think I don't know if it was OBJ's numbers, but it was the 7, if I'm not mistaken. The 7 is the big deal at LSU. So
Fournette and boys.
Yeah, man. I do want to get to D-Kid's question regarding, I guess, potential prospects at the receiver position that might be available in the 3rd round. Who do you think? Now, I think, and D-Kid, make sure you comment in the comments. Comment in the comments if I don't get this quite right. But I think you're looking for an X, right? I think there's a lot of smaller, shiftier type, slot type receivers on this roster currently. You're looking for more of an X, a boundary player who might be available to the Giants in the 3rd round. Who would you be targeting if you are the Giants front office?
Like an X receiver. I don't think Tillman would get that far down. You got A.T. Perry. He's a bigger guy. He wins her route running. Also Michael Wilson we spoke about earlier. Maybe a Xavier Hutchinson from Iowa State. I really loved Xavier Hutchinson's tape. He's just missing that explosiveness that you like to see. But Dontavius Wicks, he's a guy that I liked tape, but he ran a bad time in the 40. His athletic numbers wasn't as great. That's another guy there.
Okay.
Charlie Jones too. You had mentioned him earlier, Juice. I think he might. He may be a guy there as well.
Oh, DK came up with another one here.
Trey Palmer.
Trey Palmer.
Yeah. I think Palmer will be available to you a little bit later, though. I think he goes day 3. Maybe that speed pushes him into day 2.
Yeah,
but
4-3-3.
He might be available day 3 potentially. We'll see. We'll ultimately see how it plays out. All right. That's going to do it for the receivers. We're going to switch gears here. We're going to go to the defensive side of the ball. Just a quick glance at our grading scale as we get to these edge rushers. All right. We talked about the receivers, the pass catchers. Now we got to get after the quarterback. We got to stop the passing game. Got to hold up in the run game as well. You got to set a physical edge as an edge. So obviously this is a conglomerate of sorts. We have your traditional 4-3 hand in the ground guys, as well as your stand-up edges in an odd man front. We got the wide 9s. We got the 4-eye. We got every flavor in this top 10 here from Headley and Drew. So let's get to it. All right. And at number 10, Headley, you have KJ Henry from Clemson. Drew, you have Felix Anudike-Uzomah from Kansas State. Drew, I want to start with you. What do you like about Felix? I thought you might have Felix a little higher, actually. I really did think you were going to have him higher, but why does he come in at 10 for you?
Make sure I'm muted.
No, you're good. You're good. Paranoid.
I'm telling you. He's just not. There's not enough flash in the pan for me, right? But he's a high motor. He wins with high effort, no quit. And if he doesn't win with that, he's winning with variation in terms of his pace and timing. And he keeps offensive linemen off balance. He's got a great speed to power that I want to see more often. But he's scheme versatile to me, and he's a smart player. Up at the combine, they were asking him questions, and he was kind of answered the question more than he needed to answer the question when they asked him about hand usage and how he sets up offensive linemen from first quarter, second quarter, third quarter to the fourth quarter, man. So it speaks to his intelligence and his understanding of what he's doing. It speaks to the fact that he has a plan. So
Got to have a plan as a pass rusher. Headley, why are the masses too low on KJ Henry?
You know, big plays in big moments in big games. You know, you saw it all 2022 season. You know, you got that impeccable line, Breezy, Miles Murphy, all those guys. Some guys that's coming out next year, the D tackle positions. They were loaded up front, but you know, KJ Henry was a guy to me that kept on making the plays, the big plays. He has a knack for making those plays. He wins with length, athleticism, awareness. I think he just has more potential to unlock at the next level. He could win by bending the edge. He also utilizes his hands well to disengage. He's fluid in space and coverage. To me, he's a complete edge. I'm not sure why folks are sleeping on him, but with that ability to do it all, I wouldn't say he's super great at anything, but he's a great player. And even if he doesn't start right away and make a big impact, I think he's just going to stick around the NFL for a long time.
Bit of a jack of all trades, master of none, but he's a well-rounded player. To your point, Headley, I definitely agree with that. DK, we're talking about everybody and anybody who's an edge. Like I said, whether they stand up or hand in the ground, your big guys who could slide inside on obvious passing downs, or your lighter guys like Will McDonald, as you mentioned here, who need to be standing up or in a wide nine tech. So it's the whole kit and caboodle, if you will. Moving on to edge number 9. All right, Headley, you have Derek Hall, and Drew, you have Isaiah Foskey. I want to start with you, Drew, and please, once again, excuse the programming issue here on my behalf. Derek Hall is actually spelled with 1 R.
They wouldn't have noticed that, bro. They wouldn't even notice that, bro.
Listen, somebody gonna notice it. Somebody gonna notice it, my boy. I'm telling you, especially when I pull up the numbers and I have it spelled correctly in the numbers, somebody gonna notice it. So, I'm human. I'm human, and I can cop to my faux pas.
Nah, right? Bro. You know, on YouTube you can't make mistakes, bro. That's why you can't do it, bro. You gotta take it back. Hit the reset button on them.
Let's talk. Excuse me. Let's talk Isaiah Foskey.
I like Isaiah Foskey, man. He has a nice initial burst coming off the edge. Good long. He was working. What was it? Matthew Bergeron? Was it Bergeron? He was working him this past season in terms of his length. He knows how to use it. He has a nice little. I don't know what to call it, man. It's like a stab bull rush type that he has that he uses often.
That long arm.
That long arm, yeah.
Yep.
He's got to develop a little bit more in terms of his secondary and third moves in terms of a plan consistently. I think when he's able to, implement the spin or throw in a bull rush, I think he can be super dominant. I think he has a little bend to his game as well coming off the edge. He's just got to refine some things. And I think he'd also drop back into coverage too. He can get cute, man. He's nice in coverage.
All right, Headley, Derek Hall from Auburn.
Yeah, I think every team needs a player like a Derek Hall. He's just a junkyard dog mentality. He utilizes his strength, his base, 100% effort guy, plays with that tenacity you're looking for. He's fundamental. He's aware in the run game. Versatility, man. You see this guy standing up on the edge, putting his hand in the ground, coming from the second level, and he just makes plays all over the field. He never gives up on a play. He makes it all over the field. And surprisingly, athletic numbers, I didn't expect him to be that fast. But he ran like a 4.5 speed, and so when you got that physicality, that power, and have that athleticism and speed to get sideline to sideline, I think you'd be a very useful player at the next level.
All right. Next up, your 8th ranked edge, respectively, and you can see their actual measurements, their measurables here: height, weight, and arm length. You have Tuli Pelotu, Headley. And Drew, you have Tyree Wilson. So I think people tuning in, looking at your top 10 ranked edges, they see Tyree Wilson towards the bottom of that 10. You got to explain it. You gotta break it down. Why are you not quite as bullish on Tyree Wilson?
For me, a lot of my rankings, any position is about consistency, and there wasn't enough consistency for him. And I know that people fall in love with the physicality. They fall in love with the traits that he is, which obviously you can refine that and get him to where you want him to be. He just wasn't consistent enough for me from the position of, and I know Texas Tech didn't put him in, I don't say enough position, but sometimes they got a little cute, and that's not his game. He needs to be coming off the edge, but he has to be more consistent for me, and he just wasn't that.
wasn't consistent enough for Drew. There you have it. LA Original, appreciate that, man. We thought many moons ago that it was pretty creative, and we are very much Couch Potato general managers, as are our viewers. You are all part of the Couch Potato general manager family. Headley, Thule, talk to me about Thule.
This guy might be the most versatile defender in the whole class. The amount of things he could do on the football field is crazy. You know, we talked about Derek Hall's versatility. Thule is that times 10. You know, his ability to stand up, rush from the second level. He's slippery due to his hands, his movements. You know about movements, man. You got to have that movement ability. He battles every play. He's aware. He kind of reminds me of Nwosu for the Seahawks, formerly the Chargers, where they don't have that plus athleticism, but they're just instinctive, smart. They get their hands up in the passing lanes, bat the ball down, intercept the ball. So although Thule's missing that next level athleticism, he just does it all, man. He's a fun watch, man. You could tell when the notes get a little long, and you just keep writing more notes and more notes on the player. It's a player that you like, and it's a player that can do a lot of different things on the football field.
Let me get into J2K's comment here. I've been saying this for a minute. Wilson has a future as a 3-tech, but for a defensive end that has that quick first step and can bend, Wilson isn't that guy. Interesting. Your thoughts on that, Headley?
Yeah, I see the same thing with Tyree Wilson. I remember early in the year, I was like, yo, this guy is going to be a first-round pick just off his size. 6'6", 270. But when you watch the tape, it's something missing. Something like you said, the consistency, the burst, the consistent motor, the consistent bend around the edge. He doesn't do it consistently. A lot of times he wins off sheer power because he's just stronger, bigger than everyone else. But when you're at the next level, you're going to have to develop some more pass rushing moves. You're going to have to give 100% motor. I think he's a boomer bust guy. Even though he can go as high as number 5, to me, he's a boomer bust guy.
Gotcha. You know, some Thule getting some love here in the comment section, and we love the player. We love the player. I think Drew is actually higher on Thule than Headley is, but all three of us like him very much. I think, as you mentioned, he doesn't necessarily check the boxes in terms of, you know, being that athletically gifted freak, you know, that freak of nature, but he's just so effective. He's so effective. He plays with good technique. I think he's sneaky athletic, right? Yeah, I think he has good football athleticism. It may not necessarily translate in counting numbers, right? But as far as him playing on the field, you mentioned it before, Drew. He's slippery. It's hard to get your hands on him. You know what I mean? And then, of course, he maximizes. Although he doesn't have the longest of arms, he maximizes his arm length. He keeps guys off his chest, and you can attack the opposition in different ways with Thule. You can line him up in different areas, and he can be effective. I think he's going to be a terrific football player at the next level. I don't know that he's ever going to be a double digits, you know, sack guy, but I could see anywhere between 7 to 9 sacks, you know, season in, season out, you know, with you know, a relentless motor, you know, playing all 4 quarters is coming and making it hell for the opposition. So really like the player quite a bit. He's getting some love here. We got some Cali guys in the building, so I appreciate it.
I actually like him inside more than outside, to be honest with you. Because every time I see him, most of the time when I see him win, it's from the inside. Again, like you said, he's not the biggest, not the strongest, but for some reason, he just knows how to play the position, man. Yep. It's just watching him. And Headley was saying he was slippery. I like to call him narrow, man. Like he's just hard. It's hard to get a hand on this guy. I'm like, bro, how would you not? He's right in front of you. Block him. Like it's crazy. I'm like. You do it, but he gets it done, man. And it's funny. And I thought he was the best defensive. Not that defense was good, but he was by far the best defensive player. And I think they lost I think the second best player was a linebacker. They lost somewhere at some point during the season. But yeah, it wasn't even close. What is even close, man? He did everything for that defense outside of play, corner, and safety, bro. It's crazy.
All right, we move on to edge number 7. Headley, you have Will McDonald. Drew, you have Nick Herbig out of Wisconsin. Headley, I want to start with you. We got a chance to see McDonald in Mobile. You know, I think I don't know that we were late to the party, but you know that meme, and I'll speak for myself, that meme where Shaq is like, you know, I got to apologize. I wasn't familiar with your game. That was me. That was me, right? And seeing what he can do off the edge when he's given the opportunity to hunt the quarterback is really impressive. What do you think, Headley?
Yeah, I think if he gets stronger, he could be an all-pro. I know I watched him before the whole pre-draft process. I liked him as a pass rusher, but the run game defense, it was a sore eye on his tape. You know, teams just ran the ball at him. He wasn't physical. He couldn't get off the block. But put that aside and say that he could, you know, get stronger at the next level. I think he's a top 3 pure pass rusher in this class. His ability to contour his body, bend the edge, the spin move is impressive. Plays with 100% motor. It's like his head is on fire. You know, a big what's it? Levi, anime,
Levi,
big
Levi,
anime,
yeah.
Levi guy, man. So it just he plays like that. You know, you watch the anime and how they move, man. Will McDonald plays the exact same way. He could be a situational pass rusher at the least, but if he gets stronger and he gets bigger, that's all pro. That's all pro.
You know a guy that we really gave grief coming out. It was quite a while ago, but we gave grief that he was kind of a one-trick pony. Dorrance Armstrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not suggesting that Armstrong had the same level of athleticism that Will McDonald has. I don't think it's actually close. But we thought, you know, yeah, he can get after the passer, but there's so much lacking otherwise, right? You know, he doesn't really show up in the run game, and you know, you can get pushed around, and you know what I'm saying, depending on the level of competition, how effective is he? And he's a guy that to me has developed over time. Started out as a situational pass rusher and is now a big part of that down line in Dallas. So I think McDonald obviously has a higher ceiling. I think he offers more pass rush upside just overall, but it could be a similar trajectory, right? In terms of him getting stronger, being a bit more stout at the point of attack as he develops more. And then, of course, what he can do off the edge. You know, it's very difficult, very difficult. He kind of, you know what I imagine him as? I imagine him as Blanca, right? You know, Blanca's doing his rolling attack in Street Fighter 2. That's what I meant. It's like a Tasmanian devil, the way he
Like a
moves.
blur.
You
It's a
understand
blur.
what I'm saying? Yeah, absolutely. Drew, your thoughts on Nick Herbig? Mute.
Did it though, bro? See. He's not the quite the splash that McDonald is. Obviously, I'll be talking about McDonald here shortly, but I like him because he's where he's supposed to be in terms of what his responsibilities are. When you come from Wisconsin, obviously that's usually how they play ball there in Iowa. Obviously, he has a brother who plays in the league, so he's got that pedigree that you want. I think he has a good speed to power bull rush. And to me, he's a New England type. And by the way, I saw that comment talking about he can't get off blocks. Like, get off blocks. I thought he held his own. I think he could do a little better job, but I thought he held his own in terms of blocks, especially with the frame and size that he has there. But these are two players when you talk about just need to get a little bit stronger functionally, add a little bit more to the frame, and I think these are guys going to be players. And I also think Herbig is outstanding in coverage, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question comes. Do you want Herbig off the ball, or do you want him?
I think he's a mix, bro.
Okay.
He could be my 3-4, bro. Let's get cute.
Let go.
Yeah, let goes.
Okay. One thing I will say about Will McDonald is that he was played out of position a lot this past season. His numbers, his counting numbers are actually much higher than 2 previous seasons. So he was a bit miscast in 2022. That hurt him. Yeah.
Big 12, they do that a lot.
Yeah, it didn't make a whole lot of sense. All right, we move on to edge number 6. Headley, you have Myles Murphy coming at number 6, and Drew, you have the aforementioned Will McDonald. Headley, I want you to talk about Myles Murphy. I think this is a player that most would have in their top 5. You have him just outside your top 5. He doesn't necessarily excite you, right? But he's effective. What makes him effective?
Just being consistent. Physical against the run and the pass. He has that length and athleticism. You know, he's been doing it since he walked on campus. As soon as he walked on campus, he was the man over there in Clemson, and he just got it done consistently. That's the thing. He's not a flashy player. That's why I got him at 6. I got him a little lower than probably the consensus. But he's a guy that's going to get 6, 7 sacks, help you in the run game, could come versatile. He's versatile to rush from the inside as a defensive tackle. You know, so he has a lot of versatility, athleticism, and length that could help football team.
All right. And Drew, again, of course, we talked about Will McDonald a little bit previously. Your thoughts on the edge from Iowa State?
Long, physical, has that burst off the edge. If he's, I think if he's playing in a 4-3 defense and stop doing the cute stuff that they were doing, I think obviously we've talked about he's going to be more effective. He closes very, very quickly. And I I was saying he might rival in terms of the best pass rusher. He could rival BJ Ojulari, who we feel is the best pass rusher in this class. Just got to get a little bit. Got to get a little bit stronger. That's what I got in my notes. I read that's the second note on here, man. It's quick.
Okay.
10 forced fumbles in his career, 7 pass deflections. So you can get cute, but I know that's not his game because I did speak to him and he was like, he didn't want to really say that he didn't want to be out there in pass coverage, but he said I'm willing to do whatever they asked me to do, which is what he did this past season, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's a good attitude to have. That's a good attitude to have, but it really is incumbent upon the coaching staff to put their players in a position to be successful. We know what he does best, right? We know what he needs to work on, which is again his holding up, setting a physical edge in that running game. But as far as being a pass rusher, unleash him, man. Let him get upfield. Let him make plays. Turn over the football, create short fields for your offense, so on and so forth. All right. We move on to edge number 5, and Headley, this is where you have Tyree Wilson coming in. Believe Drew had him ranked 8th, and Drew has Myles Murphy. So I want to go back to you, Drew. Headley just talked about Myles Murphy. What are your thoughts on the edge from Clemson?
Headley said it earlier in terms of him just being consistent, man. I ding a lot of players because you're inconsistent. Well, I'm going to give you kudos and credit when you are consistent, and he is. And he's a power edge. I said it in probably said a couple different times. He reminds me of Cameron Jordan in terms of his ability. Good, strong hands, powerful hands with a touch or two of violence. It just has to develop in terms of some more pass rush moves. But you set him out there on the edge, bro, you're not going to have to worry about anything. No one's going to come around the corner. Nothing's going to get past him. He's going to do his job, and he might get you a sack or two here or there. But I think if you can refine him and get him a little bit better in terms of his moves and just combining those, with setting up offensive linemen, man, you might have you a star here in the making.
All right, and Headley, you touched on Tyree. Let's go back in there. Let's go back in there because I think he's going to go early. He's going to go early in the 2023 NFL draft. Why do you have him as your 5th ranked edge?
Yeah, he's one of the most polarizing prospects in this class. Some people have him, like you said, going number 5. Drew had him at, I think, was it 8, 7 or 8. I have him at 5. So it's a lot of different views on him, but you can't teach size. You can't teach those traits, that length. You can't. An NFL team is going to say, hey, we're going to grab him. We're going to mold him. We're going to get those pass rushing moves better. And he's going to be a monster at the next level because that natural closing ability, that tackle radius, the strength, the power through contact. He's just a big-time disruptor. He's one of those guys where even if he's not making the play, the quarterback is kind of uncomfortable because Tyree Wilson is bearing down and is looking to hit him. So I think he's going to be a first-round pick, most definitely. I just think it's going to take a little time for him. Maybe like halfway through the season, I think he's going to start getting rolling.
Start to figure it out.
Yeah, to figure it out. And he could play, 5 tech. Somebody said 3 tech in the chat, but I don't think he's twitchy enough, but he could play along that defensive line. Versatile.
All right. LA Original, man, we appreciate you, man. Have a good weekend. Appreciate you subbing. DK got some questions for you guys, man. So I'm going to let the trap breathe a little bit. Where's Keon White, Yaya Diaby, Mathis, Abdullah? These guys are probably. I agree. These guys are intriguing prospects and certainly can come in and add to a roster, make a difference. But they don't make your top 10 respectively. As a matter of fact, I want to focus on Yaya Diaby and Keon White among this group, right? And of course you can weigh in on Mathis and Abdullah if you'd like. But those two in particular, I want you guys to speak to why they're not in your top 10. What do you like about them?
You can talk about White, Drew. I know you got some opinions on Keon.
Yeah, he got a lot of work to do, man. He right now for me, he's a jag right now.
Wow.
Just a guy. I know he's got the size, and that's what people fall in love with. I know I think he was on DJ's first mock draft because DJ. A lot of when you watch these mock drafts with a lot of these different draft nicks, analysts, whatever you want to call them. They have a particular type of guy that they like, and DJ is a traits guy. And I think, watching Keon out there at the Senior Bowl. By the way, Headley, you remember when we walked up to Keon, bro, trying to get the interview? You remember what he said?
What you said
I'm just
again?
joking. I'm just joking. Anyway, I know it was a busy week for us. I'll let it breathe, but just joking. But there after the initial point of contact. For me, there's nothing else there, right?
There's
I
no
think
plan. There's no plan.
there's no plan. But a coach
There's no
don't look at
plan.
him and say, well, he has the
Oh
size,
yeah.
he has
Oh
that
yeah.
initial burst that you want.
Definitely.
We can teach him, right? But as of right now, he just for me, it wasn't enough. Wasn't enough. He's from Old Dominion, correct? That's where he came from.
Yeah, he was started with Old Dominion, transferred into Georgia Tech. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I agree with that assessment of White. Is that there's a lot to work with from a traits perspective. He is a very unique athlete given his size. I mean, a really impressive athlete given his size. But there's work to do. There's a lot more work to do than these guys that we have here within the top 10, right? As far as being able to consistently affect the passer in particular. So yeah, you got to have a plan, man, and you got to have secondary and tertiary pass rush moves. And not everybody within this top 10 has them, but they've demonstrated an ability to affect the passer more consistently than Keon White to this point. All right. Headley,
Yeah. The athletic testing was a plus. He has that inside-outside versatility. I see them use him a little more inside, but I think just developing more of a pass rushing repertoire will go a long way for Yaya. And I think he's a bit of a little tweener. I think teams might not know where to put him. Is he inside? Because his tape looked good inside. Or do we put him at edge? Because he's a little smaller to play the inside. So I think that's what's kind of hurting Yaya. But that first step, quickness, and that ability to get after the passer, I think he's could be a steal later in the draft.
And real quick, I can speak to Mathis here in my notes. I have here played both with his hand in the ground and stand up, and this was him at Nebraska. I think he came from.
I love Aziz, the kid. I love Aziz. That's my guy, man.
That is his guy.
I really do hope he gets healthy because I love Aziz Ojulari, man.
Hey, man.
Go ahead. I know I'm stepping on your analysis.
Yeah, a little bit. BJ's a better player, but Mathis played with both his hand in the ground and standing up. I'm trying to think. He came from TCU or he was I think he was at Nebraska. He transferred to Nebraska. He should have stayed where he was at, as far as I was concerned. Listen, one of the biggest things for me is he couldn't. He would have a first move, but he couldn't move to the second move in succession, right, to win, right, consistently enough. So I think that was a big thing for me. And transferring to Nebraska or wherever he transferred to, I don't think it worked out this year for him, unfortunately. Because I think if he would have stayed where he was initially, I think he might have blossomed. If it was TCU, I can't remember. I'm pretty sure it was TCU. Somebody let me know down in the comment section. That's where he was previously. Could have been playing with the likes of Horton and you know what I'm saying. So kind of missed the boat there, but he's got some work to do, man. But he's got some tools that teams will like, though, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think as you get later into this draft, you're going to find guys who obviously have some warts, but also have those tools that you mentioned, right? And given the right opportunity, the appropriate coaching, guys can blossom. Guys can clearly outplay their draft slot. All right. We move on to edge number 4 here. We have a consensus. It's Big Lucas Van Ness. Guys cut from marble. You understand what I'm saying?
Call him Hercules. I think they call him Hercules.
They call him Hercules. Big Lucas Van Ness. I'm not sure what Iowa was thinking in terms of how they were deploying their best players. But he comes in as your 4th ranked edge player in this particular draft class. Headley, your thoughts on Lucas Van Ness?
Motor, twitch, power. He got a lot of the same characteristics of a former number 1 overall pick, Detroit, Aiden Hutchinson. That was number 1 or 2? Aiden Hutchinson, number 1?
2.
Number two. Yep. So he has a lot of those characteristics. Oh, yeah, the Georgia boy went number 1.
Yep.
And he just had the versatility, the power through contact, speed and power. I seen him win with one hand to the quarterback, that stab move that Fauski likes. Van Ness could do it also. I know Iowa didn't start him out there, but when he got on the field, you knew he was their best player on the edge, the interior. He just did it all. And our offensive tackle number 1, Paris Johnson, I thought Van Ness gave him the most fits out of anyone he faced this season. And, and that's saying something because Paris Johnson is a heck of an offensive tackle.
I just got 2 words: big and powerful. Headley said the rest, man. I don't know if there's anything else to add to him, man. You know what I mean? He's scheme versatile. If you want to get, so there's nothing else to add, man.
You
You
got
got
you
it.
got nothing else. All right,
Nah,
all
that's it.
right. Headley stole all your thunder. No problem, no problem. A couple comments here. I like to poke the bear sometimes. D Kid says BJ is not better than Aziz. Aziz always gets there. His pass rush stats are insane. If we get a full year out of him, he'd be just like Judon. I actually like that comp. I think Aziz and Thibodeau, bro. If those guys stay healthy and continue to develop, the Giants have something, right? I think BJ is a bit more bendy, right? You know what I'm saying, as far as bending the edge. But I like the power that Ojulari Aziz, that is, plays with. I really do. I really do. And I think he's a little bit more stout in the run game, although Ojulari is no slouch in that game. I think what Ojulari does in terms of chasing things down is really impressive. BJ, I would agree, though. BJ has the higher ceiling. I think Aziz has a higher floor. That's my opinion on the Ojulari brothers there. J2K mentioned Isaiah McGuire. That's a player that you like. Headley, I want you to speak to him for just a moment here. And then, Drew, if you grab Thomas Incoom, your thoughts on him after seeing him in Mobile.
Yeah, McGuire has good hand usage, shows a nice burst around the edge. I think for a bigger guy, he can really bend. It's a lot of those, usually the smaller guys like to bend, but I think McGuire can bend for a bigger guy. He holds up well against a run. He has versatility to stand up, put his hand in the ground, and seen him against Broderick Jones. And I think he held up with strength and burst. So, it's good to see those one-on-one matchups. We talked about Van Ness versus Paris Johnson. Isaiah McGuire gave Broderick Jones a first-round pick some fit. So I think he's going to be a great addition to a football team in day 2 or day 3.
Yeah, Thomas Incoom, you talked about previously your boy there using his hands, right? Thomas Incoom, nice burst off the edge, first to always make contact with the offensive lineman, but that man don't use his hands, bro. Like, I don't know how you play D-line and don't use your hands. It's crazy, man. So he's got to be able to use his hands, because what he did, he won, but he just, for whatever reason, decided not to use it at times. And I think he has to develop a secondary move. He was out there at Mobile. I think that was probably his biggest issue, was he didn't have a secondary or tertiary, as Juice would say, move to beat the guy in front of him. But if he can win off that first initial burst, man, he can be a player, but that can be neutralized, man. You got to have it's not about plan A. It's usually never about plan A in the league. It's usually about plan B, C, and D, right? So
yeah, man, you got to be able to chain the combos together, man. That's how you get that 99 hit and killer instinct. You understand what I'm saying? If you can't chain the pass rules together, you're not gonna be able to affect the pass on a consistent basis. We got Jake bringing some perspective to the comment section here regarding Lucas Van Ness, and it very much is that, right? You can have the same conversation regarding Tyree Wilson, as far as the projection. What do we believe this guy will be once he has that opportunity to get in with the coaching at the NFL level, that program, when it becomes your full-time job? You understand what I'm saying? That is the beauty of it all. It truly is the beauty of it all, and that's what makes it so difficult to ultimately get right on a consistent basis, right? We don't necessarily know how these guys are wired. We don't necessarily have that much access. Although Couch Potatoes General Manager does have a little access, but we don't really know what's kind of beating in these guys' chests always. So it'll be interesting to see. I think certainly Lucas Van Ness and Tyree Wilson possess the physical traits that are going to be coveted by NFL teams. All right, let's move on to your top 3 ranked edge rushers. And at number 3, once again, we have a consensus. Nolan Smith out of Georgia. 2022 season cut short due to injury. He blows up the combine. Of course, he wasn't always, turned loose at Georgia. He played a lot of assignment football. So again, we're talking about a projection here as far as the pass rushing aspect of things. You both have him ranked number 3. Headley, why do you have him in your top 3?
Quick twitch ability. I think Drew spoke about a guy earlier, and I think Nolan Smith has the same characteristics where you're right in front of him, but you still can't get a hand on him. It's like a basketball player, Allen Iverson, crossing you over, and Nolan Smith wins with that move all the time, a strong inside move. Despite his size, he competes in the run game. He's disciplined in the run game, too. He breaks down all that zone read and everything. He'll defend that just well. And also speed to power. We see him when he did it at the combine. blew it up, and he just had more potential to unlock. I thought he got after the quarterback a lot. I just didn't think he made the sack all the time. So I think just finishing a little bit better, and I think he could be a Pro Bowl player at the next level, first round talent all day long.
Yeah, that's one of the notes I got here too. Is he didn't finish, and it's crazy because when he didn't finish, he usually pushed it into somebody else that did finish, which is kind of funny. I got it wrong. No, I don't get it wrong. I get it right.
What you got wrong,
man? DK say, "Hey, man, you get it wrong sometimes, man."
You got wrong.
Ojulari love.
BJ Ojulari better than Aziz.
But I got news for you, DK. I know you got to get out of here, man. We appreciate you, man. You know, spreading the word about the channel and the content, man. We love having you in the comment section.
Yes, sir.
Headley and Drew on that BJ Ojulari, heavy.
Yeah,
they both on him.
Hey,
you know what I mean? Yeah. Just, or you can come back to it. You can come back to the stream. You know what I'm saying? To figure out who goes number one, who goes number two here, because it might get colorful. It might get colorful.
Never know.
No, that's all you got on Nolan Smith? Okay.
No.
I didn't give you an opportunity to get in there.
No, you did. You derailed me here. Strong. I don't know if there's a stronger defensive player in the draft than this guy, and he's not that. He's 230, 238, bro, and he can hold the edge with guys bearing down on him. Man, it's crazy. Some of the stuff I be watching, I'm like, bro, that ain't normal. And then he goes and does what he did at the combine. That man's a mutant. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what genes he's got going, man. But one of the things coming into this season was, can he finish? I need to see more sacks.
The XG,
right?
It's the X gene.
It is the X gene. I need some of the X gene, man. Yeah. What's that? What happened?
The 2 X's. You get the 2 X chromosomes. Beast.
That's beast. Beast. Yeah, beast. That's what we do on 2 X chromosomes.
No. 2 X chromosomes is a girl, bro.
Man.
I got a flip flop. Why?
So why we laying down? No, we got you. Long, strong, looks comfortable whether he's playing, standing up, hand in the ground, linebacker, edge, can drop back into coverage, can dummy some tight ends coming across, good in space. I mean, he's the total package from the edge position. And when you talk about the stuff he did at the combine, I think you just need to unlock him and let him go to work, man. That's what we're waiting on.
Yeah. As I mentioned, I think the nature of the beast at Georgia. You have so much talent. You're so deep. You know what I'm saying? Just do your job, right? You know what I mean? You play assignment sound and make the plays that are there to be made. And we're going to dominate, right? As opposed to go out there and just eviscerate what's going on, setting a guy loose. You know what I mean? So I think he had to kind of play within that to a certain degree, which depressed some of his counting stats. So hopefully we get to see him unleashed at the next level. He certainly has the physical tools, even though he may be considered a little undersized. The football IQ is there, the understanding is there, the maturity. There's a certain level of maturity associated with him that I think NFL teams are going to fall in love with. So one of the biggest risers through this pre-draft process, considering he lost a good chunk of the season due to injury. All right. The highly anticipated top 2 here, right? There's so much conversation going on in the chat. And at number 2, it is none other than BJ Ojulari. Certainly his pre-draft process has not gone the way he wants it to go. There was a lot of questioning whether or not, you know what I'm saying, the preparation, this, that, the other. There is an injury. He did cite an injury, why he hasn't necessarily tested as well, hasn't looked as explosive as he has on tape. So, Drew, get in there. Explain to me, as well as others, as to why BJ Ojulari has the highest upside in terms of being a pass rusher in the class in your mind. Mute.
Muted up.
Oh man, I'm laying down because that brother, right off the snap, bro. He. Listen, it's a blur. If you blink, you might miss him coming off the edge, man. He's got the bend. He's got the dip that you want from the position. That's the fastest way off the edge to get there, man. Outside of going inside, when you're going outside around that tackle or that tight end, whomever it is, if you combine that burst, that dip, and that bend. That's a sack in how many seconds, man? You know what I'm saying? And he can do that consistently, man. And he's long, and I believe he's strong, man. I know, some people think maybe he's not as strong in terms of the edge, but I've seen him do some of the stuff, not to the degree and not to the consistency of a Nolan Smith, but I've seen him have guys bear down on him and still hold the edge, man. So, and also he can get cute too. He can drop back in coverage too and make plays.
I think that freshman stole a little bit of his thunder.
Perkins.
I think Perkins.
Yeah.
I think Perkins
That was ridiculous,
stole some of his thunder because Perkins was amazing, right? Yeah. And I think we lost a little bit of an appreciation with Ojulari. Now there are concerns. There are concerns in terms of, to your point, whether or not he's going to be able to hold up. There even some that feel like he doesn't necessarily have those secondary and tertiary pass rush moves if he doesn't necessarily win with his quickness per se. So I really want you guys to get into that, whether or not you agree with that. What is it that you see? How does he win? Right, Headley?
Yeah, I think he wins however he wants to win. I think he's, I said it earlier, I think he's the best pure pass rusher in his class over Will Anderson. Just his ability to win in a plethora of ways, whether it's the edge, come inside, and also it's something about guys that just get better and better as the game goes along. He just took over games at one point where he got after the quarterback time after time. He could bend the edge. He could utilize his hands, very active hands. Drew talked about that shoulder dip. And every time I see an edge rusher with a elite shoulder dip, to sign me up for him right now, because sometimes you're not going to win, power through contact. Sometimes you just got to be able to win, bend your shoulder, get under the tackle, contort your body, and close to the quarterback. And he does it time after time. And you talk about your first step, your second step, this ability to win off bursts. He has that every time, man. That first two steps is lethal. He gets to the quarterback. I think he dropped back in coverage. In the run game, I think he held up well, man. I kind of compared it to like a Von Miller, where he wasn't a bigger guy, but he could come from the edge, get to the opposite hash mark, and run down the play on the backside. I do think Ojulari could get a little stronger when plays come right at him, but he has his ability to win with his twitch to elude the blockers to the tackle play side. But backside, he's a beast against the run. I love him, man. We're going to see about the work ethic because, not a lot of people are high on BJ Ojulari. We saw him at his pro day. He looked like a couch potato GM out there. I think Drew said that.
He did.
It was bad. He said he had a hamstring injury, so I'm going to give him the pass. But, the questions about the work ethic, watching him play, man, it's hard to believe that he doesn't have work ethic because he's a motor guy also. Yeah, he's a motor guy also. So
with all that twitch and bend, you add the motor on top of it, and a lot of ability. Like you said, I thought that was a great breakdown in terms of how he plays the run, whether it be play side or backside. Right, I really do think that captures Ojulari's skill set as of now, and of course he has room to grow. So yes, Couch Potato General Manager is very high. Drew and Headley in particular, very, very high on the prospects of BJ Ojulari. They both feel, I certainly feel as well, that there's been a little too much disrespect. Of course, his pre-draft process has not helped him, right? Mm-hmm. It really hasn't helped him, dispel some of those concerns that scouts and draft analysts and fans alike have. But the film suggests something else to us. So BJ Ojulari is edge number 2, which ultimately leaves, no big surprise here, our guy, the myth, the legend, Will Anderson from Alabama. Will Anderson was considered the best prospect had he came out a season ago. If he was draft eligible a season ago, he was considered the top prospect. Then Jalen Carter got into the conversation. And of course, he had some off the field concerns, issues. I believe most people expect him to be the first defensive player off the board. Of course, there's a need at quarterback among several teams at the top of the draft. So he's not going to go first overall, but certainly first defensive player is certainly within the realm of possibility here. Drew, your thoughts on Will Anderson? What does he do so well? And given the fact that teams understand who he is, what he's capable of, and the fact that he's still able to impact the game, even when they throw multiple blockers at him and ultimately game plan for him, he's still able to impact the game.
He's just consistent, man. He's I've said this before, and I'm gonna say it again. He's where he's supposed to be, and he makes plays that he probably shouldn't be able to make. There's been so many times where they don't block him. So it's supposed to be a play where, he's supposed to be unblocked because he's not supposed to affect the play, and he ends up affecting the play. And I'm like, you can't have y'all not seen this on tape?
Yeah.
I understand what the play is, but this is a guy who's going to make that play.
Yeah,
you have to block him. You got to slow him down, and he's able to do this. He's got tackle range. You know what I'm saying? That's a thing now, I guess. It's tackle range. A couple players here that got tackle range. Him and
it's like the magnet in
Madden.
It's like the magnet in Madden.
Yeah, exactly. Like really, how you do that, bro? That's not a thing. But he's consistent, whether he's playing edge, whether he's playing linebacker. He got a little bit of the Nolan Smith treatment in terms of not being able to kind of just showcase everything.
Attack.
Yeah, exactly. Because I need you to be responsible because you're so good at what you do. I need you to do these things, kind of that New England do your role type of thing, right? But I don't believe there's anything he can't do from the two positions that he plays, man.
Yeah. What I wrote down here, man, it's dog versus niceness. And let me break that down to you guys.
Break that down.
Some guys are just nice. They're just so talented. They just got all the skills that you need from it. But if you don't have that dog to go with it, it's all for naught because you got to have that. Will Anderson, he has that dog. It's that physicality. You're just going against him play after play after play. He's just going to wear down your offensive line because he got that junkyard dog mentality. He's speed to power, strength to disengage. He's just so hard to block one-on-one. He's a heavy-handed bully. That's what I call him, a heavy-handed bully, physical dog. And that's what you need, man, because niceness only gets you so far at the next level.
And any concerns regarding, that trope about Alabama players that of course that coaching staff, that they're able to get a lot out of their players, but there's a concern, at least among some NFL teams, NFL officials, draft analysts, that those guys are tapped by the time they get to the NFL level. There really is no next gear or next level for a lot of these players. Do you think Will Anderson falls into that category?
I don't think he falls into that category just because this guy has motor. He's always at it. But I do think it's something to that trope. Like you said, those Alabama guys, they get coached hard. They're on a schedule. They're in a routine. Nick Saban doesn't play. And when you get to the next level, you're going to have free time. They're not going to be micromanaging you as much. So you got to have that mentality and that dog. And I think Will Anderson possesses that. So I don't think he'll fall into that category.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, nothing else to add, Drew?
Nah. This guy, I mean, no, bro.
No,
good.
It's all been said. All right. That's going to do it for Headley and Drew's respective top 10 edge rushers in the 2022 NFL draft class. Guys, 2023, excuse me, I said 2022. 2023 NFL draft class. It's been a long week. Guys, thanks for tuning in. We always enjoy your comments.
The natural. I like
Absolutely. Make sure you join us next week, Tuesday, same time, 9:30 p.m. Eastern, as well as Friday. We'll have more of these rankings as we lead up to the NFL draft, more mock drafts. We really want to get the community, the folks that are in the comment section involved. So be on the lookout for more content from Couch Potato General Manager. For Headley, Drew, this is Juice. We will see you next week.